What about Ohio State? I'm going to go to you first, Jake. What do you want to see your team do against Ohio State? How do you see them beating them?
I think the recipe is very similar to what you saw Michigan do last year, because what makes Ohio State so dangerous is C.J. Stroud. It is Marvin Harrison Jr. It is an explosive offense. You don't try to play that game with them, because there's literally nobody in college football that's going to play that game better than they do. How do you beat that? First off, the best way you counter an explosive offense is by controlling the clock and elongating drives. We talked about weather earlier, especially in late November in Columbus or Ann Arbor, where it is chilly on the sideline and your muscles get tighter a little quicker. You know, in that that's a real thing. So if you can,
it sucks.
It sucks. And especially if part of your identity is getting up and going and pressing the issue on people, you know, if you can have 6 to 8 minute drives a couple times throughout the game, it's hard to overcome that. So offensively, winning first and second down, converting third down, elongating your drives, that's going to take away some of that speed, because when that offense is rolling, you can't catch your breath as a defense and as a team. And then I think this too, there's not a corner in the country that's going to line up with Marvin Harrison Jr. for 4 quarters and shut him down. And they have Jackson Smith and Jigba, his dad has been talking about coming back for the Michigan game. That tells you everything you need to know about that rivalry. The receiver room is so talented. So you don't go toe-to-toe with them. You go straight to the foundation. Same thing again that you saw last year.
Get to the quarterback.
And again, it's cold. And when a big D lineman's hitting you, Trevor, and he's landed on top of you.
I was going to say, when he's laying on you,
I want to go home.
You're thinking about that, especially off your backside. Maybe you aren't stepping into the throw. Maybe you're getting rid of it a beat too fast. That's your best chance at doing it. You're not gonna have hold C.J. Stroud to 130 yards passing. That's not the case. But can you minimize his success based on what he's been doing? Can you control the clock offensively? All right, now you got a pretty good shot at beating him.
So here's what I'm going to say. I think that controlling the clock is a symptom of a disease, and I think it's a good disease because it means that you're converting third downs against this Jim Knowles defense. How do you keep converting third downs?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So Jim Knowles, he's got a distinct identity of it's aggressive.
Cover zero.
Yes. And it means blitzes. And what you really want is a mature coordinator and a mature offensive line and a mature quarterback to get everybody on the same page to pick up the blitz.
Yeah.
First identify it and then pick it up. Those are 2 hard pieces in and of itself. And if you don't have the pieces there, then you need maturity from your running backs, tight ends, receivers to be hot, and everyone needs to be on the same page. And then you need to execute on the look that's given.
Now you're talking football to me, baby. Let's go.
And if you're Michigan, that's a very good offensive line and a veteran offensive line. And we talk about Blake Corum and his ability to run the football. He's PFF's highest rated, or one of the highest rated pass blocking running backs in the entire country. And running backs do not get anywhere near the credit they deserve in terms of pass pro. It's one of the most complex jobs in the game of football. So those things give you a really good chance. But getting to third and manageable is another thing, because when Michigan is 3rd and 6 and under, they will run that, and you have to account for it. They will pass it. JJ can carry the ball. The entire playbook is open. You can't just sit there and say, hey, this is their tendency. There is no tendency. They'll play the whole thing.
All right, Trevor.
So I think the answer is very different. How do you beat Ohio State is the question. I think the answer is very different. Are we talking about, if you're Michigan, how do you beat Ohio State? Or if you're anybody else, how do you beat Ohio State? Because anybody else, I think we could answer it very similarly to Georgia. You got to create turnovers, which C.J. Stroud doesn't commit very many of. You have to shut their run game down, which is
that's doable.
That's doable. Make them one-dimensional. and really help your guys out in the back end with how you scheme up and how you call your defense. Jake, you mentioned it. That receiving core, they're gonna get wins. They're gonna get open.
Yeah.
CJ Stroud's gonna deliver the ball, but minimizing those big explosive plays is a huge key.
Can I ask you guys a question? I know we talked Heisman a little. We talked a little bit of Heisman, but like Harrison has been the best player for this Buckeyes team, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's going to happen with him and Stroud for the Heisman? Are people just going to vote for Stroud because they vote for quarterbacks? Or are they going to be like, no, Harrison's been the best guy?
I think that if this was last year, where we were still at this point in the season, I mentioned this, I think, on our Saturday show, we were still calling for the entire Georgia defense to get invited to New York because they deserved the Heisman Trophy. Now, granted, Bryce Young ran away with it. He much deserved, and he's proven that this year. But I think this year you have a lot more guys that are playing at a Heisman caliber level. So to make it to where Marvin Harrison Jr. is not even in the conversation, even though he's having an incredible season. I mean, you've got 4 or 5 guys that just in the eyes of the voters are ahead of him at this point. You've got Bryce Young, you've got CJ Stroud, you've got Caleb Williams, you've got Blake Corum, like at least those 4 guys, maybe a couple more, will get voted on ahead of him. That's not taking anything away from his production and his season.
But he's been the best player on that team.
Players. I think it's a better crop of players that will be represented in New York.